Հայաստանի Հանրապետություն օրաթերթի հյուրասրահ խորագրի ներքո այսօր մենք հյուրընկալվել ենք Հայաստանի Հանրապետությունում Սերբիայի Հանրապետության դեսպանատանը եւ կզրուցենք դեսպան նորին գերազանցություն Տիկին Տատյանա Պանայոտովիչ Ցվետկովիչը.
Congratulate you on your appointment as ambassador in Armenia and Serbia. And if you don't mind, we'll pass the questions, yeah? Okay. Ms. Ambassador, would you represent a brief historical overview of the Armenian and Serbian relations as two nations? Which bond we have?
First of all, thank you very much for being here in the Embassy of the Republic of Serbia in the Republic of Armenia. We are very proud that we are one of the embassies that opened the door 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago, and that you are now in territory of Serbia, also in Armenia, in a friendly country. For me also it's a big honor that I'm that this first interview in my capacity as ambassador, since before I was chargé d'affaires, because I came here to establish the embassy, is for Հայաստանի Հանրապետություն, since it's really well-respected media that personally I also like to read. Regarding the question and the issue that you mentioned, certainly we had many historic links in last centuries, I would say, and in many ways everything that was the base for our relation from many centuries ago, it was developing through the time in different moments, in different periods, and later on we can talk more about diplomatic relations. One, I would say that our people, Serbs and Armenians, we have many similarities. We are friendly people, and I discovered that our two people have many similarities, and which were caused also by certain historic issues and aspects about historic events that both people were having in the previous centuries. Many hardships as well that we had to go through. We both are Christian people. This is also one of the points and common points. And I would say that simply as people we learned how to go through all the hardships and to try to make the best out of it. If we are talking about long-term history, it is the case. If we are talking about few decades ago and after the split of Soviet Union or Yugoslavia, we also had certain similar. It is nothing to compare, but I'm just talking about people. But I would say that first connections and first ties that we had were in, we might say, in the 13th century. There was a founder and a member of dynasty, Nemanjići, Serbian dynasty, first archbishop called Sveti Sava, who was traveling to, at that time, Kilikian, Armenia, and he wanted to learn more about Armenian monasteries. This was maybe one of the first contact between Armenia and Serbia during medieval time. And he was so much impressed by the beauty of monasteries that he decided to bring constructors to Serbia to help out also building monasteries of Serbian Orthodox Church, because here is Apostolic Armenian Church, and in Serbia it's Serbian Orthodox Church. Then there is also another line in the history, and this is to say, for example, for the trade. Since both countries are on the important trade roads, there was a Silk Road also passing through Armenia, and of course Armenia is also well known as good traders. So there were also people from Armenia going to Serbia with this purpose to do business of that time. Later on, some Armenians settled in Serbia in certain cities, and they started living there, opening their schools, always having churches. And there was a church in Belgrade, there was a church in Novi Sad later on. Unfortunately, they were destroyed due to certain historical events. But this is talking about also presence of Armenians in Serbia. Then the next big wave of Armenians going to Serbia was in the beginning of 20th century, and this is well understood when many Armenians were had to leave their homes. Serbia was very open for your people and gave shelter for those who did not, who stayed without home during that difficult time. There, of course, still traces, and many of those families still live in Serbia. So in this moment, we can say that there are maybe about 500 Armenians living in Serbia, according to some certain statistics, because some Armenians already, how to say, old diaspora. Some do not speak Armenian, maybe do not have the name or family name Armenian, but still they have Armenian roots. This is very important. Then in the beginning of 90s, I would say, there was one more way. This was more into many marriages between Serbs and Armenians started from 90s, because at that time Serbs were coming to Armenia to work. One very tragic event also maybe put our people even more close. It was the earthquake in 1988 in Spitak. After that time, at that time it was Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, decided immediately to send humanitarian aid to Armenia. There were two planes, and unfortunately one of the planes crashed just before the destination, here close to Yerevan. And all 7 pilots, these were Serbian pilots, died in that terrible plane accident. We know, and this is what even today, after so many years, after over 30 years, we feel how Armenian people remember this. Armenia did not forget this kind of victims, this kind of indeed help, assistance, solidarity of Serbian people, but also I can say that I'm really impressed how still, and every year, because every year officially we are going to lay a wreath at the monument which is Broken Wing, which is in Armavir in the province, dedicated to those pilots. and that people, no matter, it's not only officials on that day, that they are going there leaving flowers, and they still really appreciate and respect even after so many decades. This is also one of the signs, this is unfortunate sign of strong friendship and solidarity between our two people. This is for sure. Then there were also some other elements, for example, like publishing books in the 19th century, which were done in Vienna through Armenian guitarists. I think that this all made a very good base that our two people are having extremely good sentiments towards each other, and also understanding. What I noticed that also Armenian people are very much interested into history, and they know a lot also about Serbia, about historic hardship that we had also in last decades.
Thank you. And what kind of work was done during the period of our diplomatic relations that we have established? Please comment on that today.
Thank you also very much for this question, because this is very important to see, to have a small resume what we have done and what is to be done. Unfortunately, we did not until recently had embassies, directly resident embassies in Yerevan or in Belgrade, but we were working on non-residential basis through the other embassies with in different countries. It was changing a bit, but so at that time mostly political dialogue was the one that was developed, meaning that there were many high-level visits or highest level visits, because there were also the visits of presidents, both from Serbia and from Armenia mutually, and these visits were always initiating some kind of cooperation in certain fields according to certain moments when they were happening. So most of these visits, I would say, were in last 20 years, 15 to 20 years, but this political dialogue was very much intensified in the last 5-6 years. So we had on a highest level, we had also visits of presidents, we had visits of President of National Assembly. Even in 2020, just before pandemic COVID has started, last visit was President of National Assembly at that time, Mr. Mirzoyan, who went to Serbia, and just after that everything was closed, and so this was the last, last chance for this big visit to be realized. We are very glad, of course, about this. Previously, in 2019, before the opening of this embassy, President of Armenia at that time, Mr. Sarkisyan, he was in Serbia, and between our presidents it was decided that our relations supposed to get a new dynamic. Before all, opening of the embassies in both countries. Secondly, also to have visa-free regime, to abolish visa, and after their agreement, everything was going very fast. By the end of 2019, I arrived here with the mission to open the embassy, and the embassy was opened in the end of 2019. So, Embassy of Serbia in Yerevan from 16th of December 2019. The idea was that the following year Armenia would do the same. Unfortunately, from March, as we all know, situation changed in international arena, and this pandemic and COVID-19 prevented many of our plans and projects to be realized. One of them was also the opening of Armenian embassy in Belgrade, but now, after that there was also war in 2020 in Nagorno-Karabakh, and of course focus was not on the agreement from before. So we are expecting that first one office of embassy in Czech Republic, and there is Ambassador Ashot Hovakimia, who is a Slavist, who is how to say, someone who knows very well Serbia and very much involved and willing to also develop relations. And we are expecting that we would have soon the office opened in Belgrade. This is going to be introduction to open the full diplomatic mission embassy. So this is one of the things. Then we also were working a lot, and already in November 2019 we started, there was implementation of visa-free for Armenian citizens, so that it's one of the first European countries where Armenians can go without visa. So still we have many Armenians asking, is it true? And I'm always very happy to confirm this issue, because now I have information from this embassy that many Armenians are going also in touristic visits to Serbia and spend there for a couple of days, and after that I learned that they enjoyed and they like, and they also find many similarities as I did when coming here to Armenia between our countries. So this is of course one good point also in recent years. Another I would say is also agreement between Serbia and countries members of Euro-Asian Economic Union. Possibility, there is agreement, free trade agreement, of course with certain quotas and certain special articles, but it gives also more possibility for us for this exchange in the field of trade. Not to mention that we are having so many ideas how to accelerate and to enhance our political dialogue. Many things have been done as well, because, for example, Intergovernmental Commission for Economic, for scientific and technical cooperation. This doesn't mean that we have not already talked a lot about what are these fields. We have many ideas from the cooperation in agriculture, in IT sector, in tourism, in high technology, in healthcare as well, and many others. So this is in general how it was in the last decades from the point of view of diplomatic relations. We also, what is very important, that we have about 10 agreements, bilateral agreements between our countries, which is also very important. It is a good base for further developing our relations and cooperation. But of course, this is not the end. This is just the beginning.
And as a newly appointed ambassador, what kind of promising programs do you have that might be implemented in the near future in order to our bonds to be stronger and our economic relations to be stronger? Because we know that besides diplomatic relations, economic relations are very important between two nations, and it can make our bonds very stronger. And what kind of programs do you have?
This is one, of course, of the most important mission, and this is why I'm here as well, because my government decides in which direction we go, but we also have to have together to find the way which is convenient both for Serbia and for Armenia, and I think we already have common ground for developing and enhancing our cooperation. One of the first things is the plan is to develop political dialogue. One of the issues for sure it's going to be, and maybe the first visit which I would expect, is to be a visit of Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Serbia. It is His Excellency Mr. Nikola Selakovic, and to be able to do something that we wanted to do for last 2 years, and this is to open this embassy officially, to have the ceremony of the opening of the embassy. Even though embassy is working, but simply to have it in an official way. The idea is that with his arrival to Yerevan, we would also organize one business forum and bringing also people from business circles from Serbia, and who would look for opportunities and see what would be the possibility for cooperation with Armenian also economy subjects, business subject, and also to find what would be the best areas. As I already mentioned, mostly these are agriculture, IT, tourism, high technology, but also food or pharmacy or petrochemistry, because also trade, we have to put a lot of focus on trade, also having in mind the disagreement within Eurasian Economic Union is giving many opportunities. Unfortunately, last years the trade numbers went down, and due to coronavirus and pandemic, and also all the situation in the region, it changed a little bit, but we want to go back to the track as it was before. What I notice also in this time, that there is an interest for accelerating trade contacts, and there were many companies from Serbia, for example, coming here and negotiating with certain companies also especially to export from spirit to many other products. This is what we want to do systematically also through governmental, to help them through governmental channels, but of course for them to be able to go directly, as they say, to have B2B contacts, and then we can help them to find the partners, but then it's up to them to continue developing it. This is one of very important issues. Then when we are talking about investments, we would try, but this is not very easy. There is going to be also Intergovernmental Commission on Economic, Scientific and Technical Cooperation, who should define exactly what fields where to go. Before also the arrival of Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia, we are going to have political consultations between our two ministries, which is kind of preparation work, not only for visit of minister, but in general to see where our relations in this moment are and what directions we can go. There is a big potential for economic cooperation. It is not used yet as it should be. This is what we want to change. The field of culture or any field is very very welcome to do something. In the field of education, it's cooperation between universities. It's also possibility to have Serbia is giving every year 2 scholarships within its program called World in Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, by now we have not had applicants from Armenia, but 2 scholarships are intended to Armenian students, and I hope this is going to change, that they will go to Serbia to study, because all the very good universities there is possible to do the studies. In the field of culture, many opportunities already have been by now. For example, recently there was a visit of Ethnographic Museum delegation, director of Ethnographic Museum in Belgrade, who had excellent talks here in Yerevan, while willing to organize exhibition and to present Serbian culture and to see the similarities also between our 2 cultures when presenting artifacts from Serbia. I suppose that we might maybe by the end of this year also organize exhibition from that field. Recently there was translated in Serbia by publishing house Pešić and Sinovi, History of Armenia by Moses Horenaci. So this is, I think, a very important point in these cultural exchanges, and the presentation of the book, which is possible now to read in Serbian, was done both in Belgrade and in Yerevan, here and in few places, and with all the academicians, with also director of Institute of Historic Institute of Academy of Science, Mr. Melkonyan, and also Elita Doluhunyan. So of course Babken Simonyan, who is honorary consul of Serbia and eminent person for cultural links between Serbia and Armenia. As well, he is not only someone who is writing, he's all in literature in last 40 years, and always connecting Serbia and Armenia in the best possible way, through translation, through writing. He's through researching, for example, about Armenians living in Serbia. He is all the time translating folk stories, classical Serbian literature, and the other way around. For example, he presented also the poetry of Serbia, anthology of poetry here in Armenia. So I really especially want to mention Mr. Simonyan and his contribution in the last 40 years in this work. Of course, apart from his diplomatic work, Ambassador Hova Kimian, Armenian ambassador, who is also speaking very good Serbian, he was also researching Armenians in Serbia, in Serbian literature, and he also had some monography about this. I see that there is an interest in my contacts here from the publishing houses also to translate some Serbian classic literature. So in one part it's already being done for last 40 years, particularly by Mr. Simonyan, but also the others. if we can read History of Armenia by Moses Khorenati, I think that we can understand better Armenians and origins and roots and the way of thinking, and maybe simply this is my biggest plan. On one side, of course, political dialogue, on the other side, economy, because economy, both for Serbia and for Armenia, is focus. This is what we should do the best. We should find where we are compatible, which are the areas where we can do together, and what Armenia does not have, Serbia does, and the other way around. So to find the best formulas for our cooperation. This is one of the points. On the other side, Serbia becomes much more visible in Armenia, and of course Armenia in Serbia, so that our two embassies are doing the job in this possible way, because I think that we already know quite a lot about each other, but still not enough. So this is one of the points. Tourism, for sure. I think that Armenian people would like a lot traveling into Serbia. There is also there are many natural beauties, as much as in Armenia, as I had possibility to discover here, and also people are very friendly, very hospitable. I must admit that I have very ambitious plans, but I will try to be realistic and to go year by year what is possible to do. Not to start too many things and not to finish anything. We want to go and to start and be able to realize what we intended. So now this is the procedure both between our two sides in political dialogue to talk more about the directions we want to go, in economic sense also from these intergovernmental commissions. Your ambassador Hovakimian, he's already doing also excellent job, and he's very present in Serbia, and I'm going really to try also to do my best here in Armenia.
Thank you a lot for our interview, for our